Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Years ago, I went onto eBay and purchased a set of chakra stones. It was a collection of 7 bags filled with 3 or more stones in each bag. Each bag was colored a different color, from red to purple, the color of the chakras, all 7 of the primary chakras. And each bag had separate stones in it that were associated with each particular chakra. There was a time where I was really into this kind of metaphysical stuff, and I still am, but not in the same way. So I purchased a bag of these stones. I thought I could put them to good use. And when the bags arrived, there was one stone in the bag that really stood out to me. It was just like a strong magnetic attraction. I couldn't ignore the way I felt about it, as weird and as silly as that may sound. And it was this stone, ladies and gentlemen, that was associated with the 7th chakra. And it looked like a skull. It looked like a brain, excuse me, not a skull. It looked exactly like a brain. It even had a spot in the back that looked like a cerebellum. It had 2 perfect hemispheres. There was this little disc in the middle of the stone. It was a piece of clear quartz that looked like a brain. And if you held this piece of clear quartz at the right angle in light, all of a sudden in the middle of it, a perfect circle that reflected all of the 7 primary colors would show up in the middle of the stone. And I believe they call these phantom crystals or rainbow crystals. It's very common in clear quartz to be able to find, or it's very common with clear quartz, you guys, to be able to hold it up at the light at the right angle, and it will make these inclusions inside the stone appear that are heavily colored with different colors. So it wasn't like this was just some one-of-a-kind stone because of the fact that it had a disc in the middle. It was a one-of-a-kind stone. It was a one-of-a-kind stone, if I can speak today. Excuse me, guys. Because of where it was placed right in the center of this particular brain-shaped crystal brain, this clear quartz brain, and it was a perfect circle. It was like a gateway at the region of the pineal gland of the stone. So I started carrying this stone with me everywhere. For some reason, I just carried it everywhere. Eventually, I ended up losing it at a pool. It fell out of my pocket, I believe, while I was lifeguarding, and went to the bottom of the pool, and I never found it. I believe that's what happened. I'm not 100% sure, but I had it in one of my pair of swim trunks, and I remember going home and looking for the stone and going, oh shit, it's not in the pocket that I kept it in. In the pocket, the Velcro was actually unlatched. So that had to have been what happened. Hopefully someone found it and put it to good use, hopefully someone unlocked the mysteries that are contained within that crystal brain, because there were multiple. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Why am I talking about this particular stone? I'm bringing this up because there was one night where my brother and I, for some odd reason, had to have been 10:30 on a weekend, 10:30 p.m. We took this stone into his room. He had a LED flashlight. He turned it on. I placed it right on top of the LED flashlight, and it completely illuminated the crystal. And there was all of these little inclusions in it, all of these little, it was beautiful. And we started looking at it, and I noticed my consciousness was shifting. I started feeling way off compared to my normal, state of consciousness. And I remember looking over at him and seeing and noticing that it looked like he was becoming hypnotized as well. And I was like, dude, are you okay? And he just continued to say that, I feel kind of fucked up. What's going on here? And I just remember tilting my head and looking back down at the stone, kind of shrugging it off. And all of a sudden, we started seeing all of these tanks. We started seeing wars. We started seeing home break-ins by police departments and the SWAT team. We started to see a complete takeover, ladies and gentlemen, of the United States. We started seeing airplanes in this tiny little crystal dropping bombs on entire nations. We saw pretty much the next world war. And we stared and watched this for hours. And I remember, or not hours, excuse me, a handful of minutes. Huge difference. But I remember even the detail was so minute and so incredible in this tiny little crystal. And we were both seeing the same thing. That's the weirdest part. I remember there was one period in time where we saw this tank driving over a bridge. And once it got across the bridge, it deliberately pulled off to the side just to run over a street lamp. And I was talking to him, relaying we were relaying back and forth between one another what we were seeing, and it was the exact same thing. So whatever was in that crystal, ladies and gentlemen, wanted to communicate to us that particular message. And I continued to have a handful of visions with that crystal before I ended up losing it. I regret losing that stone so much, but they say when a crystal is done imparting wisdom to you, it loses itself so that someone else can find it and potentially unravel whatever it has to teach that particular person or persons. So before I continue, I want to say that this is where the whole, idea of the witch or the seer or the oracle staring into the crystal ball, this is where it comes from. You can actually scry. It's called SCRY, scry. Scrying is the act of divination by staring into an object. And crystals, ladies and gentlemen, are one of the oldest ways of doing this. One of the most profound and efficacious ways as well, ladies and gentlemen, because crystals are living, conscious memory sticks of the earth. They contained programmed information. You can look at a crystal and receive information from the past, the present, or the future. These are living, conscious entities. There are entire galaxies within galaxies within galaxies, like fractals within fractals, inside of crystals, inside of clear quartz. Clear quartz, ladies and gentlemen, is an incredibly powerful piece of technology. Everything within everything within the quartz family, Incredible stuff. I'm not, to this day, 100% sure how this technology works. All I know is that it does. And I continue to receive multiple oracles from this stone. But I wanted to just say, the whole idea of staring into a crystal ball to receive information, it is highly true. It is not just some superstitious thing or something that lying psychics do just to steal your money. I've experienced it. My brother's experienced it. Handfuls of people have experienced this phenomenon. So we were given a glimpse of the next world war. I still to this day don't know exactly why. But as this whole COVID-19 thing continues to unravel, I've been receiving in my mind's eye flashbacks of this particular vision, which is somewhat alarming, ladies and gentlemen, because what we both saw in that crystal was an absolute hell on earth situation. No amount of words can describe the type of horror that we saw within that crystal. And this thing was tiny, ladies and gentlemen. It was just a tiny little crystal. There was also a handful of beneficial experiences or visions that I received from this stone that I'll talk about in just a minute, but it just blew my mind. It's like, how the hell did that information get in there? How did the information impart itself to my brother and I so that we saw the exact same thing? That's how I knew it wasn't just bullshit. We both saw the exact same vision. Multiple different doors opened up after that experience within both of our minds. And I always kind of joked around saying that, maybe this was one of the crystal skulls. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the crystal skulls. Maybe we'll talk about that in the near future, but there's a lot of lore and mythology about a collection of crystal skulls that contained massive amounts of arcane information. They're usually depicted as being, huge though, and this thing was just small, but it was indeed a brain-shaped stone. Every time I ask someone, hey, what does this look like? Looks like a brain. Looks anatomically perfect, exact. But I've always wondered, it's like, okay, how did the information get in there? Did someone at some point in time program the information in there through some type of, occult means, some type of arcane, methodology? How the hell did that information get in there? Or is it just filled full of that information due to the fact that it's connected to the earth and the spiritual, the angelic kingdoms? Crystals are absolutely connected to the spiritual realms, ladies and gentlemen. But most people think that, crystals are just about placing them on your body to receive the energy from them, or to do chakra work with these stones. And although you can indeed do that, there's much more to crystals than most people are aware of. These are absolutely profound divination tools if used properly. And I believe that we will learn a lot from them in the near future if we live as a species. How we've made it this far, to me, however, is a mystery. We are a bunch of caveman knuckle dragon fools, and it blows my mind that this country, it's just, we'll talk about it, folks. But a couple weeks later, I was laying down in my bed, and I grabbed that crystal, the same one that I received the vision in, and I held it I held it in front of my window and let the full moon's light come in through the crystal. And I noticed that I started to see things moving inside the crystal, and there was these shapes starting to create, and I noticed these galaxies starting to formulate. I could literally see them. And then they kind of parted, and I traveled through this tunnel, and all of a sudden Earth appeared in the vision as I'm staring there holding this little crystal. This whole time my heart's beating, I'm sweating, because it's like, when you go throughout your life in the Matrix, stuff like this doesn't happen. So when you're in the midst of something spiritual or some type of experience like this, it overwhelms your senses. So everything was heightened. And I'm sitting there staring at this, and all of a sudden Earth comes into focus. I see Earth. And I see all these lights going off in various countries, like bombs being dropped or like explosions. And all of a sudden, I saw multiple Merkabas starting to float above or out of the earth up into space, and they kind of colonized. So there was a group of Merkabas with people inside of them that were collecting above the earth's surface, way above the earth's surface, almost into like outer space. And when they finally finished colonizing, they all flew like on a predetermined flight plan to a different earth that was pristine, that was like an Eden realm. It was a duplicate of the hell earth that we're currently living on now. So I've tried to understand this vision for years. I still have difficulty integrating it into my understanding, but what I do believe, what I believe the crystal was showing me, was that if there ever is another mass world war, and our extinction is on the brink of possibility, there will come a time when our Merkabas will awaken, and God will take us from this earth to a new dimension, or a new earth. Now, I consider myself a Gnostic Christian, ladies and gentlemen. I am not a conventional Christian, if you want to call it that, or kind of like I don't follow mainstream Christianity, but I am a follower of Christ and the Christ energy. And I do believe that a possibility of a potential rapture I believe that it's a possibility, excuse me. I'm at a point in my life now, folks, where nothing is outside of possibility for me, because I've seen with my own eyes the impossible happen. I've experienced things that are, said to be impossible. I know that oftentimes the limits that we put on our minds and our ability to do things are false, and it has to do a lot with our programming and conditioning from living in this matrix. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, because it's been playing. It's the vision. All of these visions of this crystal have been replaying in my mind's eye lately. And I'm not 100% sure why. But crystals are very powerful, ladies and gentlemen. I wear them on my body. I wear them. This is called Prinite, I believe. And this is a collection, folks, of tiger's eye and amethyst. It's time to take advantage, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to take advantage of your time, and it's time to grow. It's time to increase your health levels. I do believe that there is the possibility that if things were to hit the fan, we might be shifted into a different dimension. A dimension of purity, a dimension of harmony, a dimension of peace. Based on my experiences with what I saw in that crystal, and based on the whole New Earth theory, and there's a ton of information about this, but anything's possible, ladies and gentlemen. Anything is possible. Am I going to sit up here and tell you that, we're for sure going to be taken to a new realm? If things hit the fan, no. But I do absolutely know that with God, anything's possible. With God, anything is possible. And I know based on my own personal experiences with the Kundalini energy that if the body can handle Kundalini energy, authentic, real Kundalini energy, the rising, purifying fire of the twin serpents, the amount of power that you have and the amount of connection that you have with God through Christ when you experience Kundalini, when the Merkaba comes online, ladies and gentlemen, and you're finally standing in your space suit, which is your aura, when your assemblage point is radically repositioned and you take on the full armor of God, anything is possible. The Merkaba is a war weapon, ladies and gentlemen. It is the pristine Metatron's cube. It is the pristine flower of life geometry that is encased around us. It is a protective ovum, a three-dimensional star tetrahedron that is connected to the God grid. It's connected to everything, our subconscious mind. There are so many, it's too much to, if I start talking about everything that it's connected to, this rant will go on forever. All I'm saying is that this chariot, and that's what the Merkaba is, ladies and gentlemen, is not only the perfected aura, it is indeed a spaceship. It can teleport. So you bet, I believe, that we could go to a new dimension if things were to hit the fan, and that those who needed to stay behind and catch hell, all the evil in the world, would stay behind. You bet. I wanted to personally thank you for watching my videos and contributing to the growth of my channel. I could not do this without you, and your interest in my content is truly what motivates me and fuels my passion for making these videos and spreading my message. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I wanted to remind you that this channel is a free educational tool that is listener supported, and if you would like to donate to my channel and donate to my cause, help make my life a little bit easier and help keep the lights on around here, you can do so by checking out the links in the description box below. There's a handful of not only ways to donate to my channel, but I also have links to different websites and different videos of mine, as well as my Amazon store, where you can check out a plethora of different health-related products that I use and recommend. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your continued interest in my message, and until next time, peace be with you all.